Hello, everyone. We left off talking about the third reason Othello is so quick to believe his wife is cheating, and that is the handkerchief. So, on the top of page 141, Iago says, I will in Cassio's lodging lose this napkin, and let him find it. Trifles, light as air, are to the jealous confirmation strong as proofs of holy writ. So, a trifle is something that's of little value. And he's basically saying that this handkerchief, right, just something that seems meaningless, it's just a piece of cloth, will be to a jealous person confirmation strong as proofs of holy writ, right? So we've got this great simile. He's comparing that this handkerchief, which seems like nothing, will be like a holy text in that it will seem to proclaim truth to someone who is jealous, to Othello. So basically, he's saying here that he's going to plant this hanky in Cassio's room. And Othello is already primed to believe. So this will be enough to convince him. Iago says dangerous conceits are in their nature's poison, which at the first are scarce found to distaste, but with a little act upon the blood and burn like the mines of sulfur. So we see throughout the text, and we're going to see this especially moving forward, that Iago's persuasion and his words are being compared to poison. They're like a disease that is corrupting Othello, changing him and destroying him. And then he also uses this great simile. He compares what he says to burning like the mines of sulfur. So this simile here reminds us of how Iago is like the devil, because sulfur is something that we associate with hell, with the burning pits of hell. And he says, I did say so, look where he comes. Not poppy nor mandragora, nor all the drowsy syrups of the world shall ever medicine thee to that sweet sleep which thou owest yesterday. So we see here that Othello is completely consumed by these seeds of doubt that Iago has so recently planted. Othello says, thou hast set me on the rack. So the rack was a torture device in medieval times, and he's using this metaphor to basically suggest that what you have insinuated about my wife is torturing me. He can't stop thinking about it. He says, what sense had I of her stolen hours of lust? I saw it not, thought it not, it harmed me not. So now it's all he can think of. He says, I found not Cassio's kisses on her lips. Every time he looks at her, he is considering that maybe she has been with another man, and he can't handle this not knowing. And so he issues an ultimatum here on 143 to Iago. He says villain. The villain here is Iago. So he sees Iago as a villain right now because Iago is torturing him with this possibility. Villain, be sure thou prove my love a whore. Be sure of it. Give me the ocular proof, or by my worth of mine eternal soul thou hast been better have been born a dog than answer my waked wrath. So he's basically giving him this ultimatum. Either you prove what you have suggested, or I'll make you wish you had been born a dog, because I am going to bring so much pain down on you. And so remember, Othello is a man of action. He's not someone who will be jealous. He told this to Iago at the beginning of this act. If he doubts, he'll be convinced, and once he's convinced, he'll act. And so now that he's doubting, he says he has to be convinced. He needs the ocular proof. And this is so important here. He's basically saying, I need to see that she is truly cheating. I can't stand the questioning, the doubt, the uncertainty, because doubting her is really shaking him. It's shaken him to the core. And it's making him doubt and question everything. We really see that right here in this passage. When he thinks about her having been unfaithful, he starts to question himself. He starts to question his occupation. He starts to question his own worth. If she would cheat on him, then what does that mean for him and who he is as a person? He says, oh, now forever farewell the tranquil mind. Farewell content, farewell the plumed troops and the big wars that make ambition virtue, oh, farewell. He says, farewell, Othello's occupation is gone. He feels like in doubting her, he's doubting everything. In losing her, he's losing everything. He has wrapped so much of himself up into his love for her. So he needs to know for certain. He can't be in this middle ground. On page 145, Iago is now charged with showing Othello something that he actually can't, right? Because they're not cheating. And so he's got to get around this. Notice what Iago says. He says, "How satisfied, my lord," right? How can I show you? He says, "Would you, the supervisor, grossly gape on, behold her topped?" He says, basically, do you really want to see your wife having sex with another man? Notice Othello's reaction. He says, "Death and damnation." Ugh, right? No, he does not actually want to see his wife having sex with another man. Iago says, "It were a tedious difficulty, I think, to bring them to that prospect. Damn them then, if ever mortal eyes see them bolster more than their own," right? Even if you did want to see it, it would be really hard to catch them in the act. So Iago is basically saying here, true ocular proof is really difficult, right? This is smart of him to point this out because he can't give ocular proof. So he is preparing the grounds for something that is not truly seeing them together, right? So he says, how then? What shall I say? Where's satisfaction? How do you want me to show you when I can't really show you, when you don't really want to see them together, and it would be really difficult to see them together? So he introduces another way to show Othello that they're cheating. He says, "But yet I say, if imputation and strong circumstances which lead directly to the door of truth will give you satisfaction, you may have it. Since you can't have real ocular proof," man, apparently I love putting an extra C here in ocular. "If you can't have true ocular proof, you must rely on the next best thing, right? Which is circumstances and imputation, circumstantial evidence." Now, this is really smart of Iago. It's easy to fake circumstantial evidence, right? So now he's introduced the idea that he can prove it without actually showing them together. And so he starts to give this proof. And notice I put it here in air quotes, right? Because this is all just circumstances. So the first piece of proof that he gives is he says he overheard a dream Cassio having in which he was kissing Desdemona and speaking to Desdemona and laying with Desdemona. So remember, these men are soldiers and they share barracks together. And so he says one night when they were in the barracks together, he overheard this dream. And notice Othello's response. He says, "Oh, monstrous, monstrous," right? I mean, this is convincing him. If Cassio is speaking of her in his sleep, then obviously they must have some sort of relationship with one another. But Iago is really smart, right? He says, "Nay, this was but his dream." Iago's not pushing. When you push something on a person, they start to question it and doubt it. But if you're the one who's questioning it, then they're more likely to start to accept it themselves. So he then introduces his second piece of quote unquote proof, right? He says on the top of 149, "Have you not sometimes seen a handkerchief spotted with strawberries in your wife's hand?" Othello says, "I gave her such a one. 'Twas my first gift." Remember, this handkerchief symbolizes their love for one another. It symbolizes the beginning of their relationship. Iago says, "I know not that, but such a handkerchief, I am sure it was your wife's, did I today see Cassio wipe his beard with." So his second piece of proof is Cassio has your wife's hanky. And look at Othello's reaction. He says, "If it be that." Iago says it speaks against her with other proofs. So basically he's suggesting that if you take all these things together, then it's proof she's cheating. And notice Othello's reaction to Iago's proof. "Oh, that the slave had 40,000 lives. One is too weak, too poor for my revenge," right? So he's talking about Cassio here and how he wishes he could kill him over and over. He says, "Now I do see 'tis true," which is ironic, right? This whole thing started with him asking for the ocular proof. Has he actually seen anything? No, but Iago has made him believe he has seen proof. And Othello is someone who cannot be in this middle ground of doubt and questioning. He needs to know for certain. He needs to make a decision. That's who he is as a person. And so when Iago, this man that he trusts and respects and believes is honest, tells him these things that his wife had given her special handkerchief to Cassio, he believes that means his wife has given her love to Cassio. And notice his response to this. He says, "Look here, Iago, all fond love, thus do I blow to heaven. 'Tis gone. Arise, black vengeance, from the hollow hell." And later, in his next speech, he says, "Like to the Pontic sea, whose icy current in compulsive course ne'er feels retiring ebb, but keeps due on." He says, "Even so my bloody thoughts with violent pace shall ne'er look back, ne'er ebb to humble love." So we see here that he is a man of action. If she is messing around, he's done. All of his love now is hate, right? What was once heaven is now hell. And again, we're reminded of how Iago is like this devil, this evil figure who is making Othello fall from grace. Desdemona, their love for one another was their heaven, and now it has become a living hell for Othello. And like the Pontic Sea, he uses this great metaphor that will never turn back in its current and course. So is Othello, right? He is not turning back. He's a man of action, and he has decided. He is convinced now that his wife is cheating. And so he makes a vow here on 151. He says, "I take a sacred vow, and I here engage my words." He's basically vowing to get revenge on Desdemona and Cassio, and Iago joins him. "Witness you ever burning lights above you, elements that clip us round about. Witness that here Iago doth give up the execution of his wit, hands, heart, to wronged Othello's service." So again, we see Iago is like this devil, like this evil figure that perverts what is good. So whereas Othello had vowed to love and respect and protect Desdemona, this wedding vow that he took, he is now vowing to harm her. He is now vowing to get revenge on her. He is now vowing to hate her. And Iago is the one who is leading him to this vow, who is taking this vow with him. So their love has now been corrupted and perverted, and Othello here has fallen from grace. He is taking this vow with this devil figure. And notice what he says at the very end of this scene. "Now art thou my lieutenant." Iago has gotten all he wanted. He's ruined Othello's love, he's destroyed Cassio's reputation, and he's won back the position of lieutenant, the thing that started all of this.